Hey everybody, welcome back to Gideon Stuff. I hope you're all having a good day. Hopefully it's better than the day I'm having. I am you know what? I gotta wait till 15 seconds in before I swear on YouTube. Alright, we're good. I am pissed. I lost a flash drive that had some pretty important stuff on it. It had some figures and charts that I was using for a paper I'm writing. And it also had some video files that I was collecting for the channel. And these video files were pretty awesome. They're for a video that I think you guys really would have liked. And I hope I find that flash drive. It was in my computer bag, and I recently found a hole in the bottom of my computer bag, so that's not boding well. Hopefully I find that flash drive somewhere. Hopefully it's not gone forever, but I have been sorely missing it. Its absence has been a very big problem. Yeah. Anyways, we're not going to let that ruin today's video. Today we're taking a look at a really cool knife. This is the Schrade Divergent. Really interesting knife. So glad I had an opportunity to take a look at it. This was provided to the channel by Knife Candy. If you see him in the comments, give him a big thank you. This is a knife that the first time I saw it, I was like, oh, that's really interesting. I want to get my hands on one of those. Never got around to it, and then he sent me one. And so I really appreciate it. That's very awesome of him. Let's go ahead and get this review rocking and rolling. Grab our measuring stick here. We have a sharpened edge coming in at pretty much 3 inches exactly, maybe just a little bit less. If we measure all the way back to the scales, we're coming in like 3.25-ish. Kind of a standard size EDC. Although, what is standard size, right? There's no such thing. That was a ridiculous thing for me to say. Let's move on to our size comparisons so you guys can see the size of this knife. Pretty much identical in size to the Rat 2. Obviously, much smaller than the Rat 1. Let's go ahead and pull out our Civivis. Here's our big old Praxis. Here's the Elementum. Just a little bit bigger than the Elementum, just a smidge. Just a smidge. All right, next up, let's go ahead and grab our PM2 and our Benchmade Bug Out. And you can see that, yes, this is a fellow crossbar lock. But yeah, a little bit smaller than the Bug Out. This might be a budget Bug Out alternative, but yeah, it is not exactly the same. I don't think it's trying to compete directly with the Bug Out. And let's go ahead and compare against a couple of other things. Here is the Kaiser Beg Lighter. I don't know. I thought that was a good comparison right there. And let's go ahead and grab the CGRB Pyrite. Very similar in size to the Pyrite. Excuse me. Got the hiccups again. Whew. So, what are we looking at for our materials here? Well, we have a blade of 8CR13, or is it 14? Check my notes. Oh, shoot. I was wrong. It's AUS 8. So yeah, I like that. I like AUS 8 better than 8CR13 or 14. Is there a huge difference? Arguably. Maybe I'll make a video on that. But I do tend to enjoy AUS 8 a little bit better. It seems to have a little more quality control. We have G10 scales. And crossbar lock, of course, and steel clip. So there it is. Let's go ahead and get to the cutting footage. Oh, and it's running on bearings. All right, let's go cut. Oh my goodness, guys! I just finished filming the review for the the video you're watching right now. Went out looking for my flash drive after I finished filming the review. Came out in my truck, tearing things apart. I think I found it. This was sitting down between my my passenger seat and the I can't even, I hope this is the right flash drive. If it's not, I'm gonna be very frustrated, but I think this is it. Hallelujah, I'm saved. Thank goodness. Alrighty guys, we're ready to talk about the Schrade Divergent. I'm also realizing this is the first review cutting I'm filming since I shaved. You know, since the disaster. That was what, 4 days ago? 4 days I've been rocking the stash. It's not as bad as I was afraid it would be, but it's not good. So yeah, have to come out here in the middle of nowhere to, you know, spare everyone the sight of this, except for you guys, so I apologize. Anyways, it's starting to come back. Please come back soon, beard. Okay, so the Schrade Divergent, really cool knife. Yeah, I've enjoyed carrying this. Let's go ahead and get right in. Let's start off with the action. Crossbar lock. This thing is on bearings. Great action. Also, you will be hearing gunshots in the background. I come out to this place, actually this area out here I know about because I would come shooting with some friends. I was going to go all the way down, but there's folks out there shooting right now, so they get to stay, right? I'm here now. But yeah, that's what's going to be in the background. Okay, so yeah, action. Very, very good. I honestly have nothing to complain about, right? If you like thumb stud, crossbar lock knives on bearings, you'll like this. You'll like it a lot. Let's talk about the ergonomics. So very neutral grip. The scales are just flat slabs of G10. The ergonomic lines are not bad. They're actually pretty good. We do have this poon spoon that you can get your thumb in. But the clip, the clip I do feel quite a bit in my hand. It hits me right there, kind of in this area. Not super comfortable. It's not the worst thing ever. I can adjust myself to where I kind of mitigate the damage a little bit, but it's also not the greatest. So yeah, ergonomics are fine except for the clip. Speaking of the clip, let's talk about the carry. So the clip is reversible, which is awesome. That makes this a completely ambidextrous knife. Thank you so much, Schrade. In the pocket, let's go ahead and go to our crotch cam. In the pocket, yeah, it's a small, thin, slim type of knife. It doesn't take up a whole lot of room. And the clip, despite being a little bit of a pain in the hand, it does work pretty good in the pocket. So, let's go ahead and get some cutting done. We have a really good looking drop point blade, in my opinion, of 8CR13 MOV steel. So nothing fancy, but honestly, you know, it could be a lot worse. And let's actually grab this big piece here. Oh, whoop. Going through 2 pieces of cardboard. I was wondering why it wasn't digging in. I was like, surely it's going to do better than that. Completely fine cutting performance there. Nothing to really worry about. Let's go ahead and do our rope pull. That actually felt pretty good. Let's go ahead and do our pushes. 1, 2, 3. Wow. Okay, that actually did pretty darn nice. You know, we've had a lot of knives that I've reviewed recently really do pretty good on the rope test. Normally small knives don't crunch through all the way, which is fine. This guy did because he's a little more robust behind the edge, but still not like ridiculously thick. So I'm actually kind of impressed with that. Let's see how he does on the pool noodle. Okay, Actually felt really, really nice. Not the best, not perfect. You can tell right here, we hit a little bit of, just a little bit of imperfection in the geometry of the blade. But overall, I mean, actually that one was pretty dang good. So yeah, I don't have a whole lot to complain about there. Very solid blade. Yeah, very, very solid. That's what I like to see. Let's go ahead and get back to the table. Alrighty, we are back. Let's get into what I'm liking and not liking about this knife. Number one, I think it's a good looking design. This definitely caught my eye right away when I first saw it on the new arrivals on Blade HQ's website. Instantly caught my eye. We've got a nice Harpoon drop point blade here. That fuller in there looks very nice. In a lot of ways it is a plain looking knife, but I do think, you know, some of these details they put on the blade, the swedge here, the fuller, the Harpoon, yada, yada, yada. I think a lot of that was, you know, enough to give it its own sense of style, so that's pretty cool. Next thing I like, the ergonomics. Very simple ergonomic lines. We will come back to ergonomics later, but it does fit the hand pretty nicely. I do like being able to put my thumb up here in the poon spoon. So yeah, that works really, really well. Next thing, the blade. I do like this blade. This is a fine blade. Is it anything special? Is it amazing? No, it's not. The satin finish on it is honestly not the best. The steel, nothing amazing, but it'll work. However, the blade is nice and thin. You do get down to a pretty acute tip. It does slice decently. It cuts well. It'll be easy to maintain. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot of problems with this blade. It works exactly like you want an EDC knife to work. Again, it's not groundbreaking, but does it really have to be? I would argue that no, it does not. Moving on, the action is actually really nice. The thumb studs are placed in a pretty good spot. It's running on bearings. Completely drop shutty. The tension on the axis lock feels really nice. Blade play, nothing side to side. Maybe a wiggle up and down. The lockup on this is actually really, really solid. I'm pretty impressed. For this type of action and such a solid lockup, it's really, really nice. So I applaud Schrade very heartily for that. Next thing, this knife is completely ambidextrous. Dual thumb studs. The crossbar lock is easy access from both sides, and the pocket clip can be swapped to the other side. Really, really good. That's what we like to see. It's always a shame to see companies make knives that would otherwise be very friendly to southpaws and right-handers alike. But if they don't, make that clip reversible, yeah, it always seems like a missed opportunity. So I like that Schrade was smart enough to not do that. Next thing, the build quality on this is really nice. This feels like a very solid knife. I do like the way this feels. The G10 has a good grippiness to it. You know, we have these full steel liners. It's a very solid knife. This is one of the reasons I don't think they were like directly trying to compete with the bug out, because this feels so much more solid than a bug out, right? We all know that whole, oh, the thin little plastic and it's squishy. This is very rigid. Definitely feels very capable. The build quality is good too. The centering is pretty much spot on. Everything is where it needs to be. We already talked about the lockup. We've got, the top of the blade. I do wish there's jimping in here. We can get to that later. But, the blade is kind of rounded over nicely. It's easy to get to those studs, which is something I appreciate. They're not sunk so far into scale that you can't grab them. So that's really, really nice. It kind of makes neat noises too. Yeah, I like the sounds this knife makes a lot. And the next thing I want to talk about is the price. These are less than $30. I consider throwing this knife in a cheap knife week series, but I decided not to. I decided to give it its own review, kind of like the Camillus Defy here. In fact, size comparison. Yeah. But no, I decided that I'd give it its own review. And yeah, I'm glad I did. Something like Cheap Knife Week. This is something I'm going to touch on real quick. A little bit of a tangent. Cheap Knife Week is not super different from the rest of my reviews, right? The review portion of Cheap Knife Week is exactly like every single other review I do. It's the same format, same length. Typically, I use a knife until I feel like I understand it. We do some review cutting. I sit down, I film a video talking about it, right? What I like, what I don't like. The thing that Cheap Knife Week does differently from the rest of my reviews is that at the end of the week, we take all the knives and we talk about how they relate to each other. And yeah, this knife definitely could have been thrown into Cheap Knife Week because it's under that $30 price point. And honestly, the last Cheap Knife Week I did, I finished filming it last week. You guys will probably have already seen it by the time this video comes out. In fact, if I'm thinking about my review schedule right, you guys will already have seen it. This video is probably not going to be coming out till June. I'm filming this in mid-April. So, yeah. Sorry, I'm trying to keep track of the calendars in my head. But yeah, this knife would have gone head-to-head with all of those, and actually it would have soundly whooped a lot of the knives that we featured in the most recent Cheap Knife Week. So that's really cool. I love seeing Schrade step it up. And that's the last thing we're going to talk about as a pro, is this shows some real initiative by Schrade. Schrade is a knife brand that's always been around in my life, right? A lot of my earliest knives were Schrades. I have very fond memories of Schrade, and I like seeing them step it up and take their production to new levels. They're coming out with they've got their new USA made stuff, which looks really cool. I want to try some of that stuff out. But they're also doing things that are still in their imported line, knives that are still very affordable and things, but they're just upping the quality. And that's really good. This puts them in kind of the same bracket as Camillus, right? Camillus makes very affordable knives very well. If Schrade can keep up this type of craftsmanship on their very inexpensive knives, I think a lot of people are going to be really happy. I know I will be, for one. But yeah, very, very impressed with a lot about this knife. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to some of the things I don't like. Number one, I wish they didn't write Schrade right there. It looks a little bit tacky. Over here, we have the name, the Divergent, with the model number. I wish they put the steel on here. I don't know why they didn't, but they didn't. Also, I guess this is a good opportunity to get some closer look at that texturing. Yeah. Next thing, let's talk about the ergos. I already mentioned I would have preferred some jimping here. I think that would have been really nice, but they didn't do that. It's not a huge deal. It's just personal preference for me. The scales are kind of blocky, but that's okay for me. Honestly, that's okay. The ergonomic lines are pretty neutral. The thing that bothers me with the ergos is the clip. I do not like this clip at all. This part here really just gets me right in a bad spot, and I can adjust my hand. If I hold the knife at a little bit of an angle, I can adjust my hand so that this falls in a little pocket. But most of the time when I just pull the knife out and put it into use, I'd be like, ouch, and I'd have to readjust until that clip wasn't bothering me. So yeah, not a big fan of that. The clip itself isn't bad. It reminds me of a Spyderco clip. And I know a lot of people don't like Spyderco's spoon clips. They instantly replace them with, Lynch clips, but I like them. I think they're really good clips. I think they work nicely. Not on the Para 3 though. But yeah, the clip works fine in and out of the pocket, but yeah, it really does bother me in the hand quite a bit. Absolutely. And really, there's nothing else that I'm going to complain about. There's a couple things I can nitpick, like the lanyard hole placement. I could nitpick the T6 hardware. But for a less than $30 knife, honestly, I'm going to leave things at this. And let's go ahead and go to my final conclusions. And am I being a little bit nice to this knife? I don't know. Maybe. But honestly, while I was carrying this, I didn't think that I was missing out on anything, right? Yeah, the performance isn't as good as a lot of other stuff out there, right? The grind could be a little bit better, but the blade's not super thick, so it accounts for that. Honestly, I really like this knife. I really, really, really like this knife. I think this is an amazing entry-level knife. I think it's great to see Schrade stepping it up like this. I've already said that, but I'm rooting for Schrade so much. In fact, there's not a company I'm not rooting for, right? I want to see every company do good because that just means more cool knives for us to look at, right? I'm rooting for Gerber. I'm rooting for Camillus. I want all these companies to do really well. I'm rooting for Real Steel and WE and Civivi, and I want all knife companies to do really well. But especially the nostalgia in me is really, really wanting Schrade to just kick butt. And this knife is a really good start. It's a really, really good start. I would love to see them incorporating this type of build quality with some higher end materials, but still keeping things at a relatively low cost. If they could make this with like 14C28N or even D2 and keep it at like the $40 price point, that would be amazing. Checking Blade HQ right now, they appear to be out of stock at the time of this recording. However, yeah, these are going for $27.95. That's a great deal. That's a great deal. This makes this a perfect gift knife, a perfect knife for like a kid, or it makes it the perfect knife for anyone who just wants an inexpensive beater. I have no doubt that this knife will perform very, very well. Throughout all my EDC, it did spectacularly. And yeah, honestly, I had no complaints. Really, really impressed with this knife. Really like this knife. I enjoyed carrying it. My biggest complaint was just that clip stuck me in the hand. And yeah, that is a pretty big issue, but I could probably find a clip to replace that with. So really, really good knife. Thank you, Schrade, for stepping up to the plate. That's what we like to see. So that's going to be it for today, guys. If you have this knife, I want to hear what your thoughts are about it. Let me hear what you think about Schrade. Do you think they're going to be making a name for themselves in the upcoming years? Curious to hear what you think. If you like this video, leave it a like, comment below, and subscribe. I've been Gideon. I hope you have a wonderful day. Until next time, adios.